whether you read David C. Baker's The Business of Expertise or whoever you talk to about niching, a lot of businesses will choose to horizontally or do like a service-based niche. Well, the big benefit of that is security. One industry goes down, you got another industry.
Yeah.
So when I chose personal injury, it was knowing that I was going to be industry specific, but also knowing there was security, that there was always going to be a need for attorneys. So it was a little bit safer to go vertically focused there.
Welcome to Show Me the Nuggets, where each week Joe chats with world-class entrepreneurs to find out the key principles, strategies, and processes that lie behind their outstanding achievements. Now, your host, the no bullshit serial entrepreneur, Joe Dreyer.
Hey everybody, it's Joe Dreyer, and today's podcast episode is a little unprecedented. See, whether you saw it or not, a couple of weeks ago, I sent out an email talking about this amazing podcast interview I just listened to with this guy crushing it with SEO, helping personal injury attorneys. And I said, man, if anybody knows this gentleman, let's get him on the podcast, because I'm a little miffed that I'm listening to him on this podcast instead of mine. And that means, folks, Chris Dreyer, and we got Chris Dreyer here today. So for those of you guys that don't know Chris, I got to give him some props. I ran across Chris completely cold. I was looking for industry-based experts selling marketing services. I was scouring the web. It was one of those efforts that you start out, you think is going to take 10 minutes, and the next thing you know, you've been doing it for 3 days. I was one of those. And Chris was somebody that really stood out. I thought he did a great job really positioning himself in a marketplace. And fast forward to today, I mean, that's literally been years. Chris is absolutely dominating his industry, doing over 500,000 a month MRR in the personal injury niche. So Chris, man, welcome to the call. Super excited to have you.
Joe, thanks so much for having me. I'm pumped. Happy to be here.
Awesome, man. So I want to dive down a couple of tracks as we were talking about right before we got on the call. I want to talk about kind of how you got started, obviously, and we'll start there. I want to then talk about what do you think is kind of working best for you in terms of providing results for your attorneys, so that all of our SEO junkies and friends, get some goodies, if you will. And then I really want to talk about the agency side of things as well. What's worked for you? What hasn't? And hopefully we can dispel some myths and help people get a little leg up on what's happening in their industry.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Awesome, man. So let's jump right in. Let's start at the beginning, so to speak. Tell us about your background. How'd you end up in this crazy digital marketing world that we live in?
Yeah, so I went to college. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Somehow I ended up with a history education degree. It wasn't really a passion, but I didn't want to bleed any more of my parents' money away. So I ended up with this history education degree. I was really into sports, so I thought coaching was going to be a path that I was really going to do forever. But it just so happened I got a job at a little high school, and I was their detention room teacher and also their JV basketball coach. And I had all this downtime to do whatever I wanted. And there was only so much surfing ESPN that I could do. So I typed in the worst possible query ever. I typed in how to make money online. After going through some terrible options, I found Ed Dale's 30-day challenge to make your first $10 through internet marketing, through affiliate marketing. I think I made about like $20 after the course. But by the end of my second year teaching, I was making substantially more doing affiliate marketing than I was teaching. And for teachers, you get paid that summer off. So it was a really easy transition my second year. I had over 100 affiliate sites. I ranked number 1 for Staying Concrete, Acai Fruit, Double Chin, alcohol withdrawal, alcohol poisoning, all kinds of stuff. And I was doing really well. And then that first Penguin algorithm hit around 2011. I was cutting corners. I was doing the easy article link building. I wasn't providing value. And my income went from let's say $14,000, $15,000 a month to like $2,000 overnight. So I was like, oh shit, I gotta do something. So I got on Craigslist, fired off a bunch of SEO resumes, and got hired by a local shop that was a full service agency that served a lot of attorneys, and I became their top SEO guy, kind of saw what not to do, and decided to start my own agency, and that's kind of how I got started.
Awesome, man. That's so funny. Easing articles, man. I haven't heard that for so long, but it's so funny. I got the cup sitting right over on the shelf. Yes, that's so awesome. I have the same one. Literally 15 feet from me. For what do they call it? The expert authors, or once you hit a status.
Expert or premium. All I know is that was my link source for a long time, and it worked.
And I feel like that was everybody's link source, and then a bunch of people tried to copy, and you just kind of did the article marketing method, article marketing robot, and all the different article directories. That's hilarious, man. Such a small world. And Ed Dale, I remember that challenge. I was a part of that challenge.
Nice.
I'd been involved in the space for probably a year or two before I stumbled onto the challenge. But he was doing things in such a different way. He was like, I feel like the Frank Kern of the internet marketing space around that time. Like, everybody knew who he was. He was so different. He made a name for himself for like standing out, and it was really fun and interesting to watch.
Yeah, there really wasn't a lot of courses back in the day. It was like random forums, and then like this guy. Yeah,
so cool. So you got started in affiliate marketing, ultimately transitioned into going full time over a summer. You stopped teaching, and then you got hit. And hit hard, and you went back to went to another day job working for an agency. How long were you on your own before you got hit with that first Penguin update?
Let's see. I'm gonna say about 3 years. I think 3 years on my own.
So I want to ask you a personal question.
Sure.
How did that affect your ego?
So the ego, it didn't hit the ego so much. I knew that I wasn't doing things that were evergreen. I knew it. I was doing exact match domains. I was doing everything, and it was kind of like, okay, here you go. You got to get serious now. And I thought that I would do affiliate marketing forever. It's just so easy. It's just selling products, no client facing, no learning sales psychology or anything like that. It's just make good websites, sell stuff. But I kind of got tossed in this agency space, and I found that, hey, talking to clients, it's not that difficult. They're just like me, no matter if they're attorneys or whoever. And that's kind of that fear. I had this fear before I actually did it, and then it was fine. It was no problem.
Interesting. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad to hear that. I know that like my first big failure, so to speak, after my win, my breakthrough moment, was really damaging. I feel like you, I knew I wasn't doing things probably the best way. Again, doing gray hat, black hat SEO stuff, running X-Rummer site-wide links on sites with 30,000 pages, buying links. I mean, being very aggressive. And I knew it wasn't going to last, but it was like, hey, man, like, I'm going to do it while I can was kind of my attitude. But I'll never forget that it must have been that update as well. I mean, my income, just like yours, fell through the floor. And it hurt my ego. And I don't know if ego is the right word, but it took a while for me to recover just mentally from it. I was then kind of a little gun shy from the experience, if you will, and wasn't willing to leap like I was during those crazy, Wild West SEO days, if you will.
Yeah, I was kind of living by the seat of my pants, actually, and I was not mature enough to save. I was spending all that money, having fun, partying, buying nice vehicles. But yeah, it was kind of an eye opener. I knew it wasn't going to last, but just kind of all came to fruition all at once.
Yeah, they're good learning experiences nonetheless. 100% good learning experiences. Cool, man. So you're working for this agency. You realize like, hey, man, working with clients isn't so bad. It's just like talking to anybody else, like we're talking right here. How do you end up going out on your own, hanging your own shingle, and then how do you end up in personal injury of all the niches that you could choose out there?
Yes, there's kind of a transition here. The first was my sister has my sister and my brother-in-law, they have their own plumbing company. It's about 40 people. They do over 8 figures. They're very, very successful. And my sister was like that extra push, like, hey, start your own agency, quit selling other people's products, stake your claim. And I remember, I was an SEO technician. I didn't go to business school. So I just started consuming as much as I could. I went to business incubators and talked to as many successful business owners as I could. And I finally felt confident enough to do it. And when I launched, it was attorneyrankings.org. So we were I'm going to put in air quotes here, full service, because we know that's not really true. Full service, but we did SEO, PPC, design, a little bit of social media. And when I launched, it was basically like, look, if you want me to do something, I'll get it done. Like, I would take any project, because at the beginning I couldn't be too selective with what projects I had to take. I had to make revenue. And I remember like one of the earliest projects, I sold 14 SEO audits for like $1,000 each. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I just remember grinding those out and doing them all manually. I didn't have any assistance. But anyways, a lot of my transition, there was a catalyst to it, but there was always a data component. After the first few years, I ran, we kept track of our CRM, we kept track of we looked at our P&L, and I noticed that SEO was like 80% of our revenue. And we had design and PPC, and the margins weren't great there. Now, there were things that I wasn't doing I could have improved the margins, could have charged more, could have changed my pricing model, but I ended up just saying, okay, first, I'm going to refer out all PPC. And the thought behind it was, then PPC only agencies could refer to an SEO agency with no threat of poaching. So it makes it easier for them to send to me. And that's also my core competency, SEO. So what happened was my revenue didn't decline. It actually increased, because then I started getting more referrals. And then the next year I looked at design. And I had always thought that design was a loss leader. You sell them design, then you sell them marketing services. But I was actually an enigma. Nobody was buying sites for me on the front end. It was always the back end, or an existing client that wanted their site upgraded. Well, someone else can do that, right? So then we decided to get rid of design, and we were just law firm SEO. And fast forward to the beginning of, I believe it was right at the beginning of 2019, I'd heard an interview, Seth Godin, with Jason Swink, and he was talking about making a remarkable agency and the different types of scaling, through productize and volume, or just being the best and charging more. And I was like, we'd always served personal injury attorneys really well. We had great results. It was very competitive. And I went and looked at the data. So not only legal, but I broke down each practice area: criminal defense, bankruptcy, family law, all the other areas. And I found 70% of my revenue was from less than 40% of my clients. So it was like a no-brainer. I ended up referring out all the 9 PI and just kept concentrating on PI, and that's kind of how I got to this hyper specialization. There is some more steps in there, but that's kind of the big picture.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's just constant iteration. What's working, what's not working, what's bringing in the revenue, what do I like doing, what am I an expert at? Makes perfect sense. What made you pick attorneys to begin with? So you didn't at first say personal injury attorneys. Obviously, you niched down later. But what made you say attorneys is where I want to stake my claim?
Well, there's a couple things. I like the competition. I'm a very competitive person. I've got some crazy stories on just the non-marketing side, but through saturation, through a lot of people in the market, it builds up this competition. So I always felt it was more rewarding when I got to page 1. Ranking double chin or staying concrete, these types of things, or family law or trademark. It was like, I'm not going to say it was very easy. It really was. There wasn't a lot that went into it. You could just make it happen. And the other thing is I was always hearing in the news, oh, there's more and more attorneys without a job, more and more attorneys. And I just thought the market was flooded. So I knew with a lot of competition that they would need an expert to really stand out on that first page. So I just knew that there would be a lot of opportunity. And here's another big one that I've came to realize, and we may talk about this in terms of coronavirus, but personal injury specifically, there's always going to be somebody get hurt or injured. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a car accident or trip and fall. Like, people are going to get hurt, and attorneys have been around forever. So I just thought it had more security than some of the other niches too.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I know a lot of successful agencies right now have really questioned, did I go into the right niche, and are looking at positioning, changing positioning, rebranding. Even some uber successful agencies that I know are like, I just never want to go through this again, and are looking to exit their current niche and go into a different one just because of COVID and kind of the scare that they have went through.
Yeah, absolutely. So whether you read David C. Baker's The Business of Expertise or whoever you talk to about niching, a lot of businesses will choose to horizontally or do like a service-based niche. Well, the big benefit of that is security. One industry goes down, you got another industry.
Yeah.
So when I chose personal injury, it was knowing that I was going to be industry specific, but also knowing there was security, that there was always going to be a need for attorneys. So it was a little bit safer to go vertically focused there.
Perfect, man. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right, let's jump a little bit so that we don't lose any of our hardcore affiliate SEOs or SEOs that maybe aren't in the agency space. Chris, man, like what's working well, like fundamentally for your agency? Like what are the 3 or 4 kind of core things that you're doing? What do you see as the 80-20 that's going to last in your agency for the services you're providing?
So we could go a number of ways. We can pick a function, whatever you want to do. I would say, okay, let's say content. So long form content that answers multiple versions of intent has to be high quality. Refreshing content. I don't know why so many individuals will just create a page and then they'll be done, but refreshing content. I would say, here's one thing that I've been saying lately. Just because you go research a topic and you write an article and it passes Copyscape's plagiarism score doesn't mean it's unique. It's Google's job to filter out crap, duplicate content, whatever you want to say. So if you're trying to rank an article, the worst thing that you could do is model the page that ranks #1 and just try to make it a little better. That is the worst idea. I've heard that a lot, but it's terrible. You need to change the format, change the structure, maybe have multiple experts on the copy, maybe do a roundup versus sticking to that same old research the keyword, do the LSI topics. That's kind of a tangent there.
No, I love that because I feel like, especially right now, I feel like that's such a popular topic amongst SEOs and there's obviously been a lot of tools out there to aid in this very topic, right? To look at what's ranking now and just do it, 5% better.
Yeah, let's go kind of the on-site SEO next. So the biggest thing that I can tell you is click-through rate percentage. Well, anything that impacts click-through rate is very, very important. That could be brand, that could be copywritten titles and your title tags. It could be a stronger permalink. It could be a number of things, a great meta description. It could be FAQ schema. All of these components to grab the click is a tremendous benefit for SEO.
I love that. In terms of implementing that process, are you looking at doing some type of analyzation kind of once a month or once a quarter for each of your core customers to see what's ranking and maybe to do a rewrite of the title as kind of a split test? Or how do you work that into a very large growing SEO company?
Yes, I think the first is get it done, right? Get it done and get it right. So first, target your keyword, make a great article, but then just don't stop. Come back, refresh it. When you plug it into Ahrefs or SEMrush and you see that it's trying to rank for a keyword and it's not quite covered the best, or Google wants to rank it for a phrase, just go with Google. Don't try to battle Google. If it wants to rank it for a phrase, go with it. And then the thing I would tell you is, it's a unique selling proposition thing. It's what do my customers care about, understanding the avatar, and then designing your titles and descriptions around that, around their needs essentially. And that can be just a tremendous benefit to your overall SEO strategy.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay. So content, we talked about kind of click-through rates. What else are you seeing?
Yeah. So let's talk about local SEO. So you want to rank in the map pack. I'm not even going to go down the DBA, business name, keyword in the name. We all know that works, kind of like EMDs in the past, and they'll fix that eventually. Might take a while, but the biggest thing that I've kind of come to a realization lately about is, again, it's Google's job to filter out crap. So if you have the opportunity to do a directory and it's thin, and I'm talking about all, and this kind of applies to link building too. Gone are the days where you just go guest post on a DR90 that's a 200-word article and think that that link's going to pass a lot of page authority. It's just not. Even the content you produce on external sites need to provide high quality value because it's Google's job to filter those out. And if they're filtered out, they're not going to pass authority. So the biggest thing I could tell you is make everything robust. I know that's more time consuming, but more images, video, audio, and that really helps with local SEO.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. I think that's probably counterintuitive to most people. It's kind of the churn and burn for most people. Make the content as thin as possible, as cheap as possible, as fast as possible, just to get out the door. And they view it more as a, hey, I did the activity, I got it done, and I did it as fast as possible and cheap as possible.
Yeah, Joe, not only that, there's only so many high quality local directories. Like, why would you make that thin and then go on to another low quality directory? Take your Yelps and your Google My Business and your Apple Maps and all those sites and just make them beefy, and that'd be a huge advantage. Then kind of switch into, I guess, link building. I kind of hit the whole gauntlet here. The biggest thing is doing what we're doing right now. Podcasting is just so insane for link building. If you can get on other individual shows, because everyone does a transcription, they promote these heavily. It's a great opportunity, and the trick here is for scalability and from an SEO tactic is go look at Joe's show, go look at my show, run it through Ahrefs if we have blogs, and just see which guests actually reference the interview they're on, and they link back to your post. And it's just an insane link building tactic that's just not being taken advantage of as well as it could.
I love that you said that. I've been talking about this for probably the last 18 months or so, but I haven't seen it used for quote unquote like local businesses. So that's really, really interesting for your local personal injury attorney. That's super cool. I don't think that there is a better link building opportunity at the moment than that, to be honest. So I'm super glad that you set it up. So are you doing outreach to kind of help your attorneys land some placements, I guess, ultimately then?
Yeah, it just depends. A lot of times it's difficult though. So if they don't have a book or they don't have something to hang their hat on, but yeah, we'll work with companies and free subcontractors just to get them on shows.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Yeah, very easy, effective way to build links, quality links, and like you said, they're promoted. They get traffic, and so that looks good, obviously as well. I mean, most guest posts these days that are done the wrong way, so to speak, aren't getting you any traffic or any intent. So that's nice to see as well.
Yeah, I kind of want to jump in here too on guest posts. You kind of triggered something. So if you've heard of the iron triangle, you can have something that's good, fast, or cheap. A lot of times people say, well, who's the best guest posting provider? Well, so as if you're looking for something that's maybe cheap and fast, maybe Fat Joe kind of fills that. Maybe it's not super high quality, but if you're looking for something that's good and fast, it's not going to be cheap. Maybe it's an upper ranks, a David Farkas. And if you're looking for something that's maybe good but not fast, maybe it's a little more cost efficient. There's other link building vendors there. So I think it's a lot of times that gets tossed around kind of incorrectly too. It's you can have two of the iron triangle, but you can't have all three of good, fast, and cheap.
That makes perfect sense, and I've never honestly really thought about that or made that correlation in terms of SEO, which is really funny. I feel like I do that a lot in prospecting and talking with prospects. I bring that up, but not so much in SEO. So kind of a little aha takeaway from me there.
Cool.
So let's switch back to the agency side of your business for a second. What's worked best, Chris, as you look back over your agency and from just starting out to growing to where you guys are now, doing $500,000 a month in recurring? What's worked best in terms of prospecting for you guys? When you look at like the majority of your portfolio, you look at your clients, your active clients, your best clients, what's worked and maybe what hasn't, or what maybe have you gotten distracted on and wish you had?
So it's not going to be a super exciting answer, but I'll tell you
like
that the number one thing is just being very good at what you do, providing results for your clients, because that will lend itself to retention. You always got this balance. You've got warmth and competency. And if you can get both of those, so they like working with you and you get results, I mean, that's the whole recipe for retention. But because we hyper niched so far, it made referral situations very easy. So one of the quickest ways that we really accelerated was we found these strategic partners. We filled, maybe we talked to several PPC agencies that needed to source SEO leads. And so that was tremendous. In terms of marketing, for us, since we're upstream and our minimum contracts are a lot higher, it's not about broad type of marketing. It's more relationship based. So it's meeting the individuals in person, handwritten letters. You can spend a lot more money to acquire them, interview them on a podcast. It's very relationship based, referral based. If back in the day when I was starting, when I was kind of downstream, and I have a second agency too, it's ESQ.marketing that just launched in March. It's about 24,000 MRR, not kind of new, but going. That's a downstream marketing agency, and downstream is you can do a lot of the cold calling because there's just a lot less risk. You can lower your barrier to entries for month-to-month contracts. You can do the pay-per-click and all this kind of stuff. It's when you're dealing with these sophisticated higher-end buyers, it's more relationship and referral.
That makes perfect sense. And I'm sure that relationship also helps with your that focus really helps with your referral sources too, right? You're so focused, and then you get a spotlight. You build real long-term relationships, and you hang on to the customer for the long term. And it's not sexy, but I mean that's what ultimately is growing your company at such a rapid pace.
Yeah, we've just kind of incrementally been really focused on the brand and our reputation, and just really tried to deliver results and just hold our clients. That's what we've tried to do, is just provide great work and hold them. But to be honest, it's not something we're the best in, but it's worked. I think the niching has been a key component to us because we are not great marketers. The niching has helped us stand out in a crowded space.
That's awesome. So we talked a lot about the past, man. What's the future? You gave us a little tickle there, telling us about a different agency that you just got started. Where are you going, man? What's the direction look like?
Yeah. So I'm always, I've got shiny object syndrome, so I'm just batting them away. But I'll say, so for the ESQ.marketing site, what we found was our minimum fees are $15,000 a month at rankings. So we were turning around these low budget. Our pricing model for rankings is like value-based pricing. So I couldn't source the low dollar leads. I couldn't find an agency that would take them. I was like, you know what? We can help these clients. It's going to be different. We're going to either bill hourly or unit based, like deliverable, and just set expectations like, hey, we'll help you get the foundation and be an incubator. And whenever you outgrow us, cool. So that's what we did with ESQ marketing. And to kind of how we got to that was we looked at our CRM and we have predefined lost reasons. So for 3 years, we were tagging why we lost deals. Too expensive. We have a long-term contract. They're non-PI. And I was like, you know what? I'm starting an agency based upon these lost reasons. So now I have someone to help these individuals out. So that's really focused there. I've got a great president, Matthew Lauren, that runs that agency. And then the other thing that I've been talking about recently, there's two things. First, writing a book, kind of build my personal brand a little bit, using maybe Scribe to help me, Tucker Max's company. The second thing is, I hate to say this, but I've really been considering get a law degree, and I want to do it as quick as possible. And the reason is because on our podcast and because of who our clients are, they're the most dominant personal injury attorneys in the United States, the biggest. Like there's nobody bigger than who we're talking to. And they could refer us leads, and it could be just a great revenue opportunity, kind of that next area. And then I could say, hey, not only are we telling you to do this because we think it's a good idea, hey, by the way, we actually do this ourselves. But that's kind of what I've been thinking lately.
Dude, I love that last piece of it. I never saw that coming. at all. But I love that. It's like we're eating our own dog food, right? Like we do what we teach. We're doing it for ourselves, and not just in our industry, but in your industry.
Yeah.
So I love that. That just vote of confidence too is awesome. Like I'm just gonna go become a personal injury attorney. Like is awesome. But I love as well that puts you on the same playing field, right? I am a personal injury attorney. From a prospecting and marketing standpoint, differentiates you from everybody else in the market.
Yeah, and to be clear, I was probably going to monetize the entire journey if I did it. Like this is how you fast track a law degree. This is, all my struggles, and even make it a course and a story, kind of, document, don't create type of thing, Gary V model. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I've Googled how to become a lawyer without getting, going to law school, and there's certainly some options there. And I know in DC, they've got all the lobbyists, so they've kind of got around that, but it's still tough being a business owner. There's still some restrictions there that I got to dig into a little further.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. That's really cool. I like that. One of the other takeaways that I had is looks like every iteration, every change in your business has come from inner reflection, right? It's not some knee-jerk gut reaction. It's, I looked at our CRM and we had this field, and for the last 3 years, it was price, right? And so because of that, we're seeking new opportunities. And so because of that, we realized that we could open up a new company focusing on, the people that can't afford $15,000 a month. And everything that you said, it's all about the data, and the data telling the story, and looking at the data for your next iteration, while swatting away, like you said, all the bright and shiny objects.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I've got the data in front of me, and sometimes I just been blind. I hadn't seen it, and it just kind of became clear. And the other thing is, every one of those deals that I was marking for too expensive, I mean, those are future prospects for this agency. It's not like I start from ground zero. They already know who I am.
No, you got a super pipeline immediately of people that know, like you. Maybe they don't trust you because you didn't get far enough for them to trust you yet, but they probably know of you. They like you. You're not cold, and now you're saying, "Hey, remember how you said, I was too expensive? Well, check this out." Like that's the hardest part. Building the customer base, building, like you said, the reputation is the hardest part. Adding on another service or something else can be an easy win for sure. Almost bolt-on revenue, but with a brand new company.
Yeah, and like anything that you want. So the whole referral thing, I don't mean to lighten that. So we're very intentional about referrals. I don't know if you've read Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. He talks about his Dream 100. So I thought, what if I could take that same concept and make a Dream 100 referral partners list? So I kind of categorized who would be great referral partners and started nurturing these relationships. And that's how I got referrals. It wasn't just, there's Chris. I had to build these relationships with, these specialized agencies, and the best way to make a relationship is to send them a lead. So I came with a present, so to speak, and kind of had that reciprocity situation already in hand.
I love that, right? Leading with value for them instead of, putting your hand out and saying, "Hey man, can you refer me some business?" Like I'm sure everybody else did to them. So you stood out immediately, I'm sure. So you brought up agency specifically. Are all your Dream 100 people in the referral kind of mechanism, are they all agencies or mostly agencies, or are there other types of businesses? What have you found kind of has worked for you?
So most of them, since we're hyper specialized, would be still in the agency space. So we only do SEO. So we're talking, PPC agencies, design, social media, email marketing, basically anything that can provide value to our personal injury clientele. That's the key thing, is what do personal injury attorneys really need? The other is there's a lot of software and tool companies, whether it's legal CRMs or so those. But then I found a couple unique ones in our space, even clothing and apparel. Individuals that specialize in selling suits, like high-end suits, have a lot of legal clientele. Kind of strange, but those were some of the situations that we fell in.
What have you found works best in terms of a handoff for you guys with those partners? So you build a relationship, let's say that they know, like, and trust you, Chris. They're like, yeah, I'd love to send you some business. What's the mechanism there? You just have them shoot you an email intro? Like, how do you make it feel seamless or like a good process and not like they're inadvertently signing somebody up for a pitch, right? Like, how does that work?
There's a couple things. So the first thing is most of the time it's a warm email. But here's one thing that I think most individuals do wrong. Most individuals will just give one name to that agency. And I don't. I give 2 to 3 because their needs aren't always immediately clear. They may not tell you that they don't have the budget. They may, no matter how much questioning you do in your sales process. So they have different needs, and I like to give them options. And there's another reason for this. If I refer them one person and then they sign up, and they have a bad experience, they're like, oh, Chris is an asshole for sending me this referral. But if I send them 2, even if it's just 2, now it's their choice. They chose. I gave them 2. So there's a little bit of psychology there. It also, and I tell our referral partners, like, look, send them a couple names. Here you go. Good luck. Like, what are you gonna say? No, don't do that. No, they want referrals.
Yep. Yeah, makes perfect sense. And there's no single point of failure as an option then either. If somebody goes, it's not that big of a deal. You find another partner, a little easier for fallout. And psychology wise, it makes perfect sense for sure. So I want to wrap this up. We're getting close to the top of the hour. I super appreciate your time, Chris. This has been cool. Awesome. My team did a little digging, and if the numbers are wrong or if things are wrong, let us know. But Eduardo, who runs the podcast, did some research, and he said that you're up about 100,000 a month since COVID happened, which is pretty crazy. I mean, definitely there's some niches that are not doing well. There's other niches or verticals that are doing really well. Most people, I'm sure, wouldn't think like personal injuries or attorneys are crushing it right now. What don't they know, or what's the reason? How were you able to pull out this awesome feat?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to make really clear is it's not just it's not personal injury attorneys, because I know a lot of agencies that lost a lot of personal injury clients and a lot of law firms. We do a really good job for our clients, and we've been able to really perform with them. So we're a lot of times one of the last things that they want to cancel, and it's harder. The other thing is, for us, we have increased pretty substantially, not quite 100K, but pretty close. And what happened was we still had prospects, but they were deferring action. So our leads kind of really slowed down in March, were really slow in April and May. And then we had just a mega month last month, just insane. And I think they were just kind of deferring, and that's why we had such a big month. But the biggest thing is that warmth and confidence. Is just being transparent, talking to them, doing the right thing. We had a couple clients that we paused.
Yeah.
They had good reasons, like great reasons for them to pause. So what's my option here? Like, no, you can't pause, see you later, or yeah, you can pause and restart. Like, I think it's integrity, doing the right things, and just being really transparent with your clients. And that's why, during the whole time we didn't lose a client. That was the big thing. We had a couple of pause, but they came right back.
I love that for sure. The communication is key. I know we do a lot of white label campaigns and building at Invisible PPC, and we see so many people when COVID hit, customers would want to cancel or pause, and they just go for cancel instead of pause. And we see people that would just like forward us the email, hey, my client wants to cancel. Like, you did talk to them, right? No, I didn't talk to them. So I love the part that you said, so kind of under the radar, like we're having conversations, like we're not acting like this isn't happening. We're digging in, we're talking to them, we're working through it together, and also being personable and not just saying, no, you can't, right? If they're in a contract or whatever. So I love that. I'm curious, Chris, what do you see happening now in terms of the industry trending? Obviously, as of us recording this, it's the end of July, but I'm curious, kind of, obviously things have been on the upward trend for you guys as of late. What do you see? Any predictions? I know it's obviously very hard to tell, but it's interesting talking to agency owners in different verticals to see what they're seeing, because it's very different across the board.
So looking at the data, like data focused, our lead gen is substantially up. So I think there's less fear. I will say that, if there's another big scare, I'm kind of keeping the cash reserves high just in case something happens and being a little bit more conservative. But I just think that now everyone's locked into the internet. Whether they're at home, I think we have their attention, and we know that they're interested in a couple things. They're interested in coronavirus. They're interested in, their job situation. So you can really dial into the type of content that you want to produce. And knowing that versus any other time in history, you don't know what people are interested in. We know they're interested in coronavirus. So give them what they want. But I also think it's just concentrating on long-term brand plays, building a relationship, podcast, things like that. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, man, I love it. All the unsexy stuff, but it's all the fundamentals and what I'm constantly going back to people about. I'm talking with an agency owner and they've been around for 5 years and their site sucks. They have no branding. Like they completely skipped all the basics and then wonder why they're having a hard time right now. So yeah, I think it's a perfect time to be talking about the fundamentals, to be honest.
Let's talk about that real quick. I know we're getting on the time. Okay, so if you had an X and you had your X and Y axis.
Yep.
If the higher your brand goes up, brand is trust, the more your fees can go out. So if you have no brand, you need to charge low fees, have low barrier to entry contracts, make it simple for them to test you because they don't know. But the stronger your brand gets, the more trust there is, the higher you can raise your fees. So a lot of times where people are like, oh, should I do a free proposal? Should I do a foot in the door? Should I whatever? How big is your brand? How much trust do you have? That can really help define that too.
I love that, man. So follow-up question on that since you brought it up. What do you think are the major levers in terms of brand building that somebody could deploy? Right? Thinking back what you guys have done, I think, I found you guys because of content. I think you've done a great job with content, but I don't follow you all the time. I see you guys got a podcast happening. Looks pretty great. But what do you think are the major levers in terms of branding?
Geez, I'm not the best here. I would say just being really aware of what your clients need and providing that to them and having a consistent message, really understanding your avatar and being consistent with your messaging, your colors, your image. And I think that goes a long way. So, having a style guide, developing your avatar, doing things that can provide long-term value for brand, being a resource to them.
I think that's great. I love what you said, man. I'm not the guy for this, but I think you guys have done so well with that. You're doing $500,000 a month in recurring for just SEO and one vertical. I think it's a testament, man, to the basics and really nailing them and scaling. I think you've done that brilliantly well. I'm curious. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? I'm curious in your mind if you could tell your old self, that affiliate SEO slap self, going back to work for an agency, starting a full-time job again, like what advice would you give yourself if you could?
So I wouldn't change anything because this is all that I had to take those licks to learn, but I would concentrate on value. I was cutting corners and instead of developing 100 niche sites, which I had, I probably would have focused in on a handful and really just been the expert in that space, because the reality was, even back then when I was doing well, the majority of the income came from only a few niches anyways.
Love it. All right. So last question, parting shots. Instead of asking you to recommend 3 books, which I feel like every podcast does these days, I want to do something a little different based upon what your business looks like right now. So right now, current snapshot, what book do you think has made the biggest impact on that current snapshot and the way that you do business, and why?
So Traction by Gino Wickman, EOS. That's having a business framework that ties everything into larger goals and incremental improvement, continuous improvement. It's been just tremendously helpful. So that's the main book. I'm kind of like bouncing around on my seat here because I think of a lot of other books, but that one really had the greatest impact on my business.
Perfect, man. I love the question because I feel like depending on that snapshot and that time and where the company is in its growth and how long it's been around, that snapshot looks different, and what people feel like has made that big change or what they can lean on is different. So at different stages in business, that book becomes different instead of just, hey, what 3 books do you recommend, or what's your favorite 3 books? Mm-hmm. So appreciate that, man. So Chris, we'll link up to obviously your sites in the show notes. So we'll make sure that we link to rankings.io. We'll link up to the Rankings podcast, which you're running, and then also your brand new agency. If somebody wants to reach out to you personally, where's the best place to do that, like socially?
The best is LinkedIn. I'll accept all connection requests. You can message me on there, and I'll answer any questions you guys have that we talked about on the show.
All right, man. Anything else that you'd like me to link up or put in the show notes for you?
No, we're good. It's been awesome. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming. Everybody, definitely go check out Chris. Follow what he's up to. Super, super smart marketer. And you guys know for sure, I'm stalking this guy. So you should too, or you're missing out. See you guys.
Thanks, Joe.